The police station was louder than usual, phones ringing, footsteps echoing, laughter drifting from behind desks. 14-year-old Aaliyah Carter stood near the front counter, hands shaking slightly, backpack still on her shoulders. She had never been inside a police station before. Her voice was quiet but steady. "Sir, my mom didn't come home last night." The officer behind the desk barely looked up. Officer Ray Collins, mid-40s, smirked as he scanned the form. "Your mom's name?" "Captain Naomi Carter." The officer laughed, not a chuckle, a full laugh. "Captain?" he repeated, shaking his head. "Kid, this isn't a movie." Aaliyah swallowed. "She's in Special Forces." The laughter spread. Two other officers glanced over. One muttered, "Everybody's mom is something these days." Ray leaned back in his chair. "Listen, sweetheart, your mom probably ran off. Happens more than you think." The words hit Aaliyah like a slap. Her face burned, but she didn't cry. She had learned long ago, black girls weren't allowed to be emotional in public. Aaliyah had been raised differently. Her mother never wore uniforms at home, never bragged, never explained her job. But she taught Aaliyah 3 rules. Never beg for respect. Speak truth even when your voice shakes. Your bloodline is stronger than ignorance. Naomi Carter was not just a soldier. She was Special Forces intelligence, classified operations, overseas deployments, missions that never made the news. And she was late. Naomi was never late. Officer Ray slid the form back. "Go home. If she doesn't show up in 48 hours, we'll talk." Aaliyah stared at him. "My mom would never disappear without calling me." Ray leaned closer. "You people always say that." Silence fell. The room froze. Aaliyah's heart pounded. She felt small, invisible, but something inside her hardened. She stood straighter. "Write it down. If something happens to her, remember you laughed." That earned another laugh. "Get this girl out of here," Ray said. The front doors opened. Heavy boots, measured steps. The sound was different, disciplined, intentional. Every officer instinctively looked up. A woman walked in, mid-40s, straight posture, calm eyes that missed nothing, civilian clothes. But authority followed her like a shadow. She removed her sunglasses and spoke quietly. "Which one of you laughed at my daughter?" The room went silent. Officer Ray's face drained of color. The woman stepped forward. She placed a military ID on the counter. "Captain Naomi Carter, Special Operations Command." Her voice was calm. That made it terrifying. "Now," she said, "let's talk about professionalism." Ray stood abruptly. "Ma'am, I didn't—" Naomi raised one finger. He stopped talking. "You dismissed a missing person concern. You stereotyped a child. And you disrespected a citizen." She turned to Aaliyah. "Baby, did you do the right thing?" Aaliyah nodded, tears finally escaping. "Yes, ma'am." Naomi turned back. "Then you failed." Naomi didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She did something worse. She explained. She spoke about bias power, how laughter can destroy trust, how many black children stop believing in systems because of moments like this. Every word landed heavy. "My daughter did not need courage today. She needed adults to do their jobs." The captain overseeing the station stepped forward. Apologies followed. Discipline was promised. Ray couldn't meet Aaliyah's eyes. Outside the station, Naomi knelt in front of her daughter. "I'm proud of you," Aaliyah whispered. "They laughed at me." Naomi held her face gently. "They laughed because they didn't know who you came from. And someday, you'll make sure they never laugh at another girl again." Aaliyah wiped her tears. A new thought entered her mind for the first time. Maybe she didn't just survive today. Maybe she was becoming something. The ride home was quiet. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. Aaliyah sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window as buildings passed by. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass, unfamiliar somehow, stronger, quieter. Naomi kept both hands on the steering wheel. She didn't ask questions yet. She knew her daughter needed space before words. Outside, the city moved like nothing had happened. Inside that car, something had changed forever. That night, Aaliyah lay awake in bed. The laughter replayed in her mind. Not loud laughter, dismissive laughter. The kind that tells you don't matter enough to be believed. She pressed her face into the pillow. Her chest tightened. She had done everything right. She had spoken calmly. She had told the truth. And still, they laughed. That was her first lesson in how power works. The next morning, Naomi knocked softly on Aaliyah's door. She sat on the edge of the bed. "I didn't tell you much about my job," Naomi said quietly. Aaliyah nodded. Naomi took a breath. "There are rooms where decisions are made that never make the news," she said. "And there are people who don't expect women who look like us to walk into those rooms." Aaliyah looked up. "Do they laugh at you too?" Naomi paused, then nodded. "They used to." Naomi told her stories she had never shared before. How early in her career a commander assumed she was administrative staff. How her authority was questioned even after missions succeeded. How silence was often safer than anger. But silence has a cost, Naomi said. And yesterday, you paid that cost. Aaliyah felt tears well up. I felt small. Naomi reached for her hand. You were never small, she said. They just couldn't see your strength yet. Monday morning came too quickly. At school, whispers followed Aaliyah through the hallways. Someone had recorded part of the police station incident. A clip circulated online, without context. Just the laughter, just her standing there. A boy laughed as she passed. Hey, he called out, is your mom a superhero too? The class laughed. Aaliyah sat down, heart pounding. She wanted to disappear, but she remembered her mother's voice. Never beg for respect. She lifted her chin. Later that day, her English teacher, Ms. Reynolds, stopped her after class. I saw the video, she said gently. Aaliyah braced herself. Ms. Reynolds surprised her. I'm proud of how you stood your ground. No one had said that yet. That night, Ms. Reynolds assigned an essay. Write about a moment that changed how you see yourself. Aaliyah stared at the blank page. Then she began to write. She wrote about laughter, about disbelief, about standing alone. But she also wrote about her mother, about strength without shouting, about power without cruelty. For the first time, her pain had somewhere to go. When she finished, her hands were shaking. She realized something powerful. Her story mattered, even if others tried to silence it. Meanwhile, at the police station, things were changing. Officer Ray was placed under review, mandatory bias training, formal reprimand. But what shook him most wasn't discipline. It was the look on Aaliyah's face when he laughed. That look followed him home. For the first time in his career, he questioned himself. One evening, Aaliyah stood watching her mother polish her boots. Mom, she asked quietly, do you think I could do what you do? Naomi looked up. You mean protect people? Aaliyah nodded. Naomi smiled softly. I think, she said, you could change the system from the inside. Aaliyah felt something ignite, a purpose she didn't have words for yet. That night, Aaliyah wrote one last sentence in her notebook. They laughed because they didn't know me. One day, they will. She closed the notebook. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was becoming a voice. 3 weeks passed. Life tried to return to normal. But trauma doesn't move on just because time does. One evening, Naomi came home later than usual. Not tired, not distracted, alert. Aaliyah noticed immediately. Her mother's shoulders were tight. Her eyes were sharp. Scanning, calculating. That look meant only one thing. Something from the past had resurfaced. After dinner, Naomi asked Aaliyah to sit. I need you to listen, she said carefully, and I need you to be brave. Aaliyah nodded. Naomi took a breath. Years ago, she began, I was part of an operation that exposed corruption inside law enforcement. Aaliyah's stomach tightened. Not every badge stands for justice, Naomi continued. Some stand for silence, for protection of the wrong people. Aaliyah remembered the laughter at the station. It clicked. Naomi spoke slowly. Years ago, undercover, she worked alongside a task force meant to stop organized crime. Instead, she uncovered something worse. Officers protecting traffickers, evidence disappearing, witnesses being intimidated. When Naomi reported it, she was warned. When she pushed further, she was isolated. And when she refused to back down, she became a target. I didn't lose friends, Naomi said quietly. I lost protection. Aaliyah felt her chest tighten. Is that why they laughed at me? She asked softly. Naomi nodded. Some systems recognize strength, others fear it. That night, Aaliyah couldn't sleep. Every sound felt louder. Every shadow felt closer. She realized something terrifying. Her mother wasn't just powerful. She was dangerous to corrupt people, and corruption never forgets. She hugged her pillow tighter. For the first time, she was afraid not of being ignored, but of being noticed. 2 nights later, a car slowed outside their house. Too slow. It parked, engine idling. Aaliyah froze at the window. Naomi was already moving, lights off, phone in hand, voice calm. This is Captain Carter, she said quietly into the phone. I need eyes on my location. The car stayed, then drove away. No confrontation, no threat, just a message. We see you. Afterward, Aaliyah whispered, Are you scared? Naomi didn't answer immediately. Yes, she said finally. But fear doesn't mean stop. It means move carefully and forward. Aaliyah absorbed that. Courage wasn't loud. It was steady. At school, the whispers returned. This time, darker. Her mom's in trouble. She thinks she's important. That's why cops don't like them. Aaliyah felt the old urge to shrink, but something had changed. She stood up during class discussion and spoke about accountability, about truth, about power without integrity. The room went silent. Her voice didn't shake. Ms. Reynolds encouraged her to submit her essay to a youth writing program. Aaliyah hesitated. "What if people laugh again?" Ms. Reynolds replied gently. "Then let them. History doesn't remember laughter. It remembers courage." Aaliyah submitted it and waited. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Her essay had been selected, published, shared. Her words, once ignored, were now being read. Aaliyah cried, not from pain, from validation. That night, Naomi sat beside her. "You see," Naomi said, "they tried to silence you before you even knew your voice." Aaliyah looked at her hands. "I don't want to just survive," she said. "I want to change things." Naomi smiled, proud but serious. "Then you must be willing to stand alone sometimes." Aaliyah nodded. She already knew. Aaliyah wrote again in her notebook. "They laughed at me when I spoke. They feared my mother when she arrived. One day, they will respect my voice." She closed the notebook. She wasn't just becoming strong. She was becoming dangerous to injustice. 10 years had passed. Aaliyah Carter was no longer the quiet, trembling girl who had stood in the police station. She was 25 now, tall, confident, and sharp-eyed. Her mother's lessons had shaped her. Courage doesn't need approval. Strength is invisible until tested. Silence can be a weapon when patience is required. She walked into the same city she had grown up in, older, wiser, and ready to step into the world she had only observed from the sidelines. Aaliyah had graduated from university with honors, majoring in criminal justice and social advocacy. Her first job, community outreach liaison at a nonprofit for underprivileged youth. She wanted to make a difference where she had once felt invisible. On her first day, she walked into a room filled with skeptical colleagues. Some whispered, some eyed her suspiciously. Aaliyah remembered her mother's words, "Never beg for respect. Speak your truth even when your voice shakes." She held her head high. "I'm here to do my work and to listen." It was enough. 2 months into her job, a police officer publicly mocked one of the teens she mentored. "Your mom's probably in the army too, right? What's next? Superhero rescue?" The teen flinched. Aaliyah felt the familiar ache of humiliation, but this time she didn't shrink. She calmly documented the incident, reported it, and spoke to the officer in private. "You will not silence them, and you will not make them feel small in front of others." Her voice was calm, unwavering, but the weight behind it was unmistakable. The officer, for the first time, realized the gravity of his actions. Later that night, Aaliyah called Naomi. "I stood up today, and it scared them." Naomi smiled over the phone. "Good. Fear is a sign that you're doing the right thing. Never let them think laughter is power. Power comes from integrity, from courage, from action." Aaliyah hung up, inspired, but exhausted. She realized she was finally walking in her mother's footsteps without losing herself. The next week, Aaliyah sat in her small apartment, journaling. Every injustice she had witnessed, every moment she had been laughed at, every fear she had suppressed. She wrote with tears streaming, but they were not tears of weakness. They were tears of release, acknowledgement, and preparation. For the first time, she saw herself as someone who could fight for others, not just survive. Aaliyah began holding workshops for teens and young adults, teaching self-advocacy, teaching how to confront systemic bias safely, teaching the courage to speak truth. Word spread. Parents thanked her. Teens respected her. Colleagues started consulting her. And Aaliyah realized influence doesn't come from being the loudest. It comes from showing up, being consistent, and refusing to be ignored. Months later, Officer Ray, the same one who had mocked her at 14, returned to the community for a meeting. He expected to intimidate the new generation. He didn't expect Aaliyah. She addressed him firmly. "You humiliated a child once. You humiliated a community today, and you will answer for it." The room was silent. The teens watched in awe. Colleagues stared. He knew she meant every word. Aaliyah didn't need to shout. Her presence spoke volumes. After the confrontation, Naomi visited. "You did more than I ever imagined," Naomi said, holding her daughter's hand. "You've turned the laughter into power. You've turned fear into influence." Aaliyah smiled, tears streaming. "I just wanted to make them stop laughing. For once." Naomi hugged her tightly. "You didn't just stop them. You gave them something better, respect." Years later, Aaliyah Carter, now 35 years old, stood on the steps of the very same police station where her humiliation began. She wasn't here as a child anymore. She wasn't here as a young woman testing her courage. She was here as a leader, an advocate, and a force of accountability. In her hands, a file documenting decades of abuse, negligence, and systemic corruption. She took a deep breath. This is for every laugh that ever echoed in a child's ears. This is for every moment they tried to make us invisible. The community had gathered, teenagers she had mentored, parents who had seen her fight, colleagues who respected her integrity. Even Officer Ray was there, older, humbled, and nervously adjusting his tie. This was the moment she had prepared for. She began. I was laughed at here as a 14-year-old. My mother walked in, and they realized what they had underestimated. Today, I am standing here, and I am still underestimated, but I am not invisible anymore. Her words were calm but piercing. Every syllable carried weight. Every pause demanded attention. She continued, "This station is meant to protect, not to ridicule, not to silence, not to dismiss anyone, especially a child." She told the story of her youth. She told the story of the officer who laughed. She told the story of the teens who had faced similar humiliation. Tears glistened on several faces. Officer Ray stood up. I didn't realize," he began, but Aaliyah cut him off gently. "It doesn't matter if you realized. What matters is that you change, that this system learns from its mistakes, that no child feels small in front of someone sworn to protect them." Her gaze swept the room. "This isn't just about me. This is about all of us, and I will not let laughter replace justice." Naomi Carter stepped forward quietly. The room fell silent. "This is my daughter," she said. "She learned courage from her mistakes, but also from mine. And she's showing you today what leadership, integrity, and heart truly mean." Every officer and witness felt the gravity. Naomi didn't have to explain her credentials. Her presence alone reminded everyone why laughter can never measure strength. Aaliyah turned to the teenagers who had once been laughed at. "You are not small. You are not invisible. You are the voices that will change tomorrow. Stand, speak, persist." Several of them wiped tears. Several nodded, inspired. Her mother's lessons had come full circle. Strength is quiet until it acts. Fear is a teacher. Courage is learned. Within weeks, internal investigations led to mandatory sensitivity and anti-bias training for officers. Public acknowledgement of the failures at the station. Officers who had previously laughed facing discipline. Aaliyah had turned personal humiliation into community transformation. That night, Aaliyah and Naomi sat together on the porch, overlooking the city lights. "Did we really change things?" Aaliyah asked softly. Naomi smiled. "We planted the seeds, and the rest will grow because you refused to stay silent. You turned your pain into purpose." Aaliyah took a deep breath. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel the weight of the past. She felt pride, clarity, and unstoppable resolve. Aaliyah opened her journal. "They laughed at me. They laughed at my mother. But courage, truth, and persistence are stronger than ridicule. No matter your age, no matter your size, no matter your station, your voice matters. Speak it, act on it, change the world." She closed the journal, smiling. This was the victory of the human spirit. Moral of the story: never laugh at someone's truth just because you don't understand it. Every voice carries a story. Every child carries a future. When you dismiss someone, you don't just insult them. You risk silencing the very courage that could change the world. Respect is not earned by power or position. It is revealed by how we treat those who stand alone. And when a child is raised to speak the truth without fear, no system, no laughter, and no prejudice can stop her from rising. Have you ever been laughed at for telling the truth? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might give someone else the strength to speak up. If this story moved you, subscribe to Momentum Stories. Here, we share real stories of pain, courage, and rising stronger, because your voice matters, and your story deserves to be heard.